I got it done. All right, welcome to the third iteration of my webinar. I'm going to be going into basically winning with AI in today's ad platform, like driving it completely with PMax. This is part 3 of my webinars. You might remember part 1. I really dove into data. Part 2, I went into like infrastructure. This one really is the culmination of all of them, where I not only do a little quick recap into what we learned there, but also dive into how you can apply this to your campaigns. So I'm going to jump into this now. Quick reminder, and I hope you like the new design. I had a little bit of a slide update here. But my name is Ben Dankyu. I am the CEO and co-founder of Nav43. Once upon a time, I was a math major back at UW days. It seems like a lifetime ago. I have helped launch plenty of brands, so I've been brand side before. Some of these wins and sales, and some of these losses, but wins and losses, definitely all learning. So that was great. I've been in the Google Ads space since 2011. Much before the automation days, but also spent millions of dollars with brands after they launched PMax and after they've launched automation and all that in 2018. So I've seen both sides of that coin, and I've worked with hundreds of brands on it. So over the last year, I would say I wouldn't call myself like an AI specialist. Yeah, I certainly am not. There's way more talented people in the space leveraging ChatGPT who can go into the tech and IT behind it. But I have been following it intensely. Our company leverages it extensively, and I would definitely call myself an enthusiast. Knowing where to leverage it, when not to leverage it, and really staying in tune with what's changing kind of every day, right? So, and finally, a D&D player and an avid Montreal Canadiens fan, which is unfortunate for me right now. Okay, so what are you going to learn today? First, we're going to go into a little bit of a background of AI's role in Google Ads. Then we're going to do a deep dive into the power of first-party data. And then we're going to bring that together to show how you can transform your Google Ads account to be a money printing machine, or how to scale your performance campaigns in a less catchy way. So step 1, we're going to talk about really the importance of accurate data. This was my first webinar. We went into this in detail, making sure you have your user sales journey mapped out and all those data points are feeding into your campaigns. They have to have digital footprints that you can track that first party data. Step 2, we're talking about your audience. So this is finding your audience, knowing who you're targeting, knowing what their intents are, what their problems are. You really need to understand what their challenges are if you're going to start solving them with your product. So not only knowing a user's journey and decision-making path, but mapping that to campaigns, account structure, all that good stuff. And then once you have a good picture of that unit economics and measurement, and you have a picture of your audience that you're going after and what their concerns are, this is where you can start launching your media campaigns and scale your performance and really grow that demand. So this is how ad teams used to operate. I remember the days, 2011, 2012, very early times for me. You plus your ad strategy versus your competitors. You do your keyword research, you look at your competitors, you see what they're doing, position up your copy, do some analysis into your market research and all that kind of stuff, and really build a strategy. Fast forward, it looks just a little bit different. Now it's you plus the first party data you can integrate plus your ad strategy versus your competitors. So still an important piece there. However, it also includes machine learning AI, which is super important because you can really, it doesn't show my video on this. Oh, it does. Okay, sweet. Toss that match on that gasoline and let that AI run. And with the right formula, it can really take off, which I'll go into in a second. Okay, so we know our approach to data is also changing. This is important. We know the cookieless future, something that we've been prefacing for years in the marketing world. iOS data updates, all those changes of Apple and iOS removing a bunch of access to advertisers. We know all about that. And of course, increased data privacy restrictions and platforms. So it's changing the game. We know this the last 2-3 years. This has been a very avid topic. What's it really been leading towards, though, especially when you have things like Google and platforms like Meta that are taking away all these controls, but they're also removing your insight into the data you have. So it can be confusing for sure. And as marketers, we're sitting there, like when it's first launched, we were trying to figure it out too. Don't worry, I know the problems of Meta can be really intimidating. But this AI and automated bidding isn't necessarily new, right? Like we talked about this in my previous webinar, launched in 2018, do no evil, as they say. And really from 2018 to 2022, and even let's say 2019 to 2018 to 2021, two, around there somewhere, there were some tough times. And as I talked to you before, millions and billions of dollars were spent to help Google perfect this engine. So I'm not necessarily a Google advocate, for the record, but it gives us a good insight into how they got to where they are today. I am an advocate of using Google to make money for brands. So let's look at how they've really developed their AI machine learning. So to do that, we kind of have to understand what's changed in the last little bit. And things are changing for the most part. How does Google get it right? Because they have, and this is not a blanket statement. There's definitely, please be careful using some of these campaigns because, like I said, not a blanket statement. But how does Google get it right? In short, it's about creating relationships between data sets that then creates predictability. Anyone who's done some readings on LLMs and all these different changes that are powering ChatGPT and all these different new tools, they're working on predictability. And how they do that is, it's super complex if you were to talk to someone who knows a lot more of the back-end side, but also can be simply identified by something like this. So finish this sentence. Apple of my. Most people who've heard this saying would say apple of my eye. It's a common saying. It's whatever. But how does it get to that? We know how to predict what comes next because it's a common saying. But there's, to get these 10 sentences has over like 3.6 million combinations. And this is why we need machine learning to scour the web, look at every single one of the hundreds or the thousands of words in the English language and understand, and the millions of websites and data sets that would say that altogether, I is the next word. So that's kind of how it works. It's using all of its data sets to predict that next word, right? So let's relate that to what it looks like. A complicated data set, really. This is what the data looks like in a 3D rendering. And it's our job as marketers to create the right instructions and guidelines to guide the tools, right? Like there's too much data for us to even comprehend in here. So let's bring in Google's Performance Max, a new era in the paid media space. By new, we mean they've been trying it for a few years, but it's still changing. And this is really I'm going to give a little definition here so everyone kind of who hasn't heard of PMax or maybe hasn't used PMax can kind of come align on this. But basically, it's the fusion of machine optimized bidding, expansive reach across Google's platforms, search, display, any different channels they have access to, adaptive creatives, and deep dive into enhanced analytics. So let's look at this in each of its areas. So all-in-one campaign solution. Harness the power of all of Google's platforms. They're bringing it all together. Automated bidding, nothing new in the last year, but they really brought it into this new solution. Let machine learning optimize your bids, expansive reach across YouTube, Gmail, Discover, Search, etc. All these different channels are now integrated into one. Dive deep into insights so you can actually see. They restrict what you can change. I'll get into that in a second, but they do let you know, give you access to data that you didn't have access to before. And then adaptive creatives, so like responsive ads and understanding pulling ads directly from your site and being able to test hundreds of sets of creative and copy and all that good stuff. So sounds pretty great. Here's the thing. It also strips away a lot of your control. So let's go into what that looks like. And this is important. So I still get people who reach out to me for Google Ads management. They don't understand some of these things. Like, I'm not saying every campaign has to be a PMax campaign, but it's important to understand what's behind this. So it might take out audience targeting. It takes out audience bid adjustments. You can't decide how much to bid on each audience. And ad placements, where to actually direct the traffic and where to place the traffic. Even kind of landing pages, and I should say kind of because there's some restrictions you can help guide this at least. So why should you care? Here's a little case study that we did here at Now 43 for some awesome results using PMax. I'm gonna take you down the journey of this. It's quite interesting. So credit to my awesome team for these results. Month one, we launched, you can see here, cost of $1,200, revenue 22,000. Now, to give you a little bit of context, this is a big ticket item. These it's not like a $50 sale. So, this could have been 2, 3, 4 sales, but it's only a few sales. So I would not suggest or expect such a high return on your first month. This was quite an anomaly, where we really took a lot of time to plan out how we're launching. We did a lot of testing and data first. We did a lot of audience recommendations. We did a lot of creative tests before we even came into this level. So we started from a good foot. I will definitely say that much. Month two, okay, let's increase our spend. So we drive we put our budget from 1,200 to 13,000, 10x our spend. You might hope to 10x your revenue. No, or in this case, 18x your revenue. But no, it did increase our revenue from 22 to 46, and our ROAS was still at 3.5, so still a positive return on our ad spend. And many businesses can succeed quite well on a 3.5 ROAS. It's definitely above a break-even point, so that's great. However, you can see that we going from $1,200 to getting 22 to 13,000 to getting 46, not the jump you wanted. So this is where we added new images, added video, and started expanding what was in the platform. We need to give more to it to get to spend at that level. It didn't have enough information. So month three, we tried to scale some more. Okay, we added some new video, added some new images, we increased the budgets, we did some more URL exclusions, did some changes in the platform, but really you're sitting back and you are still seeing how things are performing. You're keeping an eye on it, and you're changing certain elements, like in adding new creative and content and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, you're still in a testing phase. So we still got 3.8 ROAS, which is great. Month four, okay, let's keep our spend relatively at that level. We spend 25K. We've dropped our revenue down to 64, 2.5x ROAS. This is starting to look a little bit more bleak. This is where you do not want to panic. Repeat that, do not panic. There's still time. This is why it takes time to build a scalable product in this. We added new assets and we went for a bid strategy change. Okay, maybe we're bidding too high, bidding too low. Let's think about changing. In this case, I think we probably brought some of our bid strategy down. Month five, min-maxing. So we start kind of setting the levers of our bids and seeing from our data, analyzing the data and seeing where our min is, where our max is, and understanding that. So we narrowed our CPA down. We want to make sure that we're at this certain area of a cost per acquisition. We brought our spend down to 15,000 because at 2.5x from the month before, we're like a little bit hesitant on continuing to spend at that level because that was not a profitable ROAS for this client. We brought our spend down. We focused in our areas on that CPA that we knew was effective. And we did some feed optimization. So just on the e-commerce side of things, right? So this actually helped quite a bit. Our revenues went up. We spent 10,000 less, but our revenue went up by 33,000, and we were at a ROAS of 6.5. We're in month 5 now. Month 6, min-maxing continued. We did in min-max even more. We took out even more. We shrunk it down, our cost per acquisition targets. We prioritized profitable products that were working better. We added a promo period to help generate some extra sales. So that big jump, there is definitely some caveat there to the promo being added, but nonetheless, these are all data points being added into Google, and a 21 times ROAS, more than doubling our revenue on half our cost, is pretty impressive, right? Month 7, we say, okay, let's dial it up again. Go from 8 to 18K budget increase. We deprioritize products. We have a ROAS benchmark, but we're going for we want to sell a robust amount of products for this client, right? Like their target wasn't only ROAS, so you might have stayed low on our spend. They did want to grow sales, and they did want to focus on non-priority products as well. So we deprioritized some products. And finally, I'll do month 8 of this. It's continuing for sure, but always on, we were doing about 12.5K spend, revenue of 135, we kind of found a real sweet spot here. So this is tweaking, budget stabilization, feed optimization. This is great. And it's not to say you always have to spend 50,000 in a campaign. There's other campaigns that can feed into this for sure. Like you might have shopping campaigns and search campaigns and other campaigns, and PMax is just a machine working on its own, and that can cause some troubles. Like it's still an evolving channel or campaign type, so that's something to be important of. But here's some things. So one, an average ROAS of about 8.9 times, which is excellent. We adjusted factors such as creative, product feed, bid strategies. We were able to get this really stable and scaling, really tapping into a lot of inventory to do it. And like I said, there's a little caveat here. Don't expect that 18 times at the gate. I've seen some fall flat on their face right out the bat, and it's a matter of pushing through it, understanding you need enough data to feed it, and you need to make sure you have that data in the platform before you can even expect a launch, because you do not want to launch with inaccurate data or not enough data. It just gives too much of a wide boundary for the AI to work within. So let's go through the initial setup and process for setting up a Performance Max campaign, a PMax campaign, and identify where most advertisers make mistakes. Go through some common mistakes and really correct those. So step one, creating a campaign. Google makes it super easy. Of course, Google makes the interface easy because they want anyone to be able to create a campaign and spend money. That's quite obvious. So when you create it, they do this like, oh, here's all these easy. You want leads? Just press this leads button and you will get leads. Oh, wait, you want website traffic? Oh, just press this button and we'll give you website traffic. We're going to use leads in this example. Let's look what happens when you just select leads. And I should say, I'll go back for a second. Your best bet, and this is key to having that accurate data, like I said, is to actually just create a campaign group without a goal guidance. Don't let it preset things that can set you astray and lead, and just add in a bunch of things that you do not need and might just potentially ramp up your budget before you have those learning factors. So, but we are going to show you, just in case you do this route, what happens if you select leads. Okay, so you select leads. Choosing leads as an objective will automatically select all conversion actions that might be somewhat considered as a lead. Phone calls, lead forms, lead submissions, request a quote, contact us, newsletter signups, YouTube channel subscribes. The list goes on. There's many of these, but these are some of the standard ones. Be sure to remove, and be very sure to remove anything that you don't consider a hard conversion. This isn't the time to have, like, I understand top of funnel to bottom of funnel conversion actions that might dictate, a engagement that might turn into a sale. This is not the time to have that. You want to rein in your conversion actions as your primary objective. So do not get stuck with the wrong actions being optimized for. This is really important. All right, so it automatically pulls all these default conversion actions in, and it looks something like this. You might see all these in there. Let's look at what we know we want, which is submitted leads, qualified leads, and converted leads. To know that journey, and this could be in the sales side as well on the e-commerce, right? But I'm just using leads as an example right now. So submitted leads, qualified leads, converted leads, these are in there. Tailor it to these, and then you can step. Okay, so from here, you choose the format. You can actually choose the naming convention, and this right here is PMax right there. Okay, so you choose PMax. What are your bidding options? Okay, if you have accurate conversions and you've tested your data and you know they're accurate, select conversions as your KPI. Do not set a specific cost per action, not yet at least. And to be honest, I will say this across this whole presentation, it's all still testing. There's no perfect formula here. We've tried this in a few different campaigns and got differing results, but we recommend not selecting your cost per action yet, not until your bid strategies really get working, and until they find the right formula. Then you can get more directive, try testing in a new campaign, see how those results get. But to start, and we're still in that exploratory phase, we're just launching new campaigns, or we're taking your campaigns, we're trying PMax for you. It's important. Now, if you have it, you will likely see better and faster learnings with a conversion value bid strategy. So not just your by conversion, but by conversion value. And it's important this is accurate once again. You can kind of go through this decision tree. It's a little, I know it's a little bit hard to read, but it's like, do I have conversion value tracking? Yes, no. If no, then you're just going to do on conversions, not worry about value. If yes, then you can choose conversion value. And then depending on your assets and depending on what you have, do you select do not set a target CPA? If you am I using yeah, if it's all new, I wouldn't do a target CPA because you're still testing. And same thing on the other end where it's like optional. You can remove all your like initial revenue costs from the beginning, depending how much you know here. Sorry, it was hard for me to read what I created here earlier. But depending on how much you know coming into this, you don't want to add restrictions before you know that it's going to work, because it's nice to tell AI that you want a result, but if it doesn't have the data to get it, it's just going to go crazy. It's going to go in circles trying to figure it out. So another insider tip, we've tried and tested this many times, but found that selecting optimize for campaign for acquiring new customers is not a good thing off the bat. I mean, I've seen this from some other ad agencies and specialists in the space, and similarly for like them, you just kind of end up overpaying for the similar results. So who are we to tell Google this right now? I would wait and test this at a later date. All right, so we have bidding here. Oh, you can just hit that. That's just the button. Okay, choose your locations and languages and assets. This is important. You want to make sure that you select interested in. Now, it's really funny. They don't let you actually change this setting when you set up the campaign. You need to do some changes after. So do not fall into this trap where it's like regularly in or interested in location. Choose the location you're going after, and you can always build new campaigns for different geos and different languages. So for example, if you're just doing United States and Canada, or you're just doing the United States, choose that location, move on, and we'll come back to this later. Once we've published, we can come back and we can turn off that setting. Super important. One language per campaign is best practice for now. I'm sure you could experiment with this, but for now we like to do by language. So we'll do one English, one Spanish, or one English, one French in different campaigns, just because of the behavior that people have in their browsers is typically very centered on that language. So we found, I mean, I wouldn't say I have a lot of tests on this. I just find it best for us to do that. So assets, you want to have a bunch of assets. I'll go into this. It's a little bit of a mixed bag though. If you just let Google build its own assets, we've seen it work, we've seen it not work. It can take from anywhere, right? So test this at your own risk when you just let it kind of run. But definitely if you do this, it might take some old content from Express releases from 10 years ago or something like that. So you must turn on the URL expansion functionality to like remove which URLs are being pulled from, to make sure that you're not automatically grabbing terrible content. It's not for us to tell Google what content's going to work, but it's definitely up to us to tell Google what content's definitely not going to work, which is super important. Okay, so this is where you can kind of see it. You can, do your final URL, and you can actually, like for example, anything that contains contact us or press release or something like that. You can make rules set up to remove these to make sure that these pages, like thank you pages, aren't being pulled in. Why would we want to send someone to a thank you page, as an example? It sounds like intuitive, but like it might pull that and try. So I would not let them do that. Okay, so asset groups, typically this is like Google's indicator ad strength for like how well best practice your ads are. We recommend multiple asset groups, as many as possible. Definitely make sure you're following the all the different best practices for like images, sizing, all that kind of stuff, video sizing, whatnot, text headlines, descriptions, and all that kind of stuff to feed into it. Try to get them to mirror your landing page. Take a look at your landing pages and take copy from it to put into it. And I know we're going to let launch and see what Google does, but at least mirror some things. This is always best practice. You're going to get lower CPCs, higher click-through rates, better cost per acquisition, and it's going to give a lot more media mileage for your campaigns and give PMax a lot more runway to work with. But yeah, it definitely want to have mobile optimized, a little insider tip again. Square portrait videos. This is going to result in more, a higher volume of conversions. Making sure you're addressing mobile because Google's using it, and especially if your users are tending to be on mobile, then you need to make sure you have this. But I would definitely, nonetheless, make sure you're having make sure you're having mobile and desktop optimized images, multiple ad sets, and multiple creative types. You want to feed as many creative types as possible into Google. All right. Once you're happy with it, you can go on to the next step. Choose an appropriate call to action, whatever you're trying to do here. In this case, maybe it's a sign up. You might have, like, for example, some a campaign that's really based around lead magnets versus one that's based around sales, depending on what one works the best. But don't forget the extras. This is going to be your site links, call extensions, call out, structured snippets, all this good stuff, because all the different formats that Google's testing with needs to have these types of extensions in there to compete at that individual level. So you don't want to like do all this work and then when the actual ad shows it's bare bones, doesn't show all these different things, right? So make sure you have all your different asset groups filled out in your site links as well. Okay, so we kind of come to audience signals next. To get your account working as fast as possible, you want to give as much data as possible, and this is where you want to add audience signals. Now, there's two main categories to consider when it comes to audience signals. You have one, first-party data. This is, email lists, users who visited your site and their actions, newsletter subscribers, all that kind of good stuff, customers. And then two, you have custom segments. These are more generic. There's an awesome range, and these are super. We primarily recommend focusing on first-party data as when you start, because it gives you great data, understand your client, if you have good first-party data, right? Like if you have enough data. Sometimes you don't, and you need to use custom segments. And do not rule out custom segments, because this is a really great tool for scaling. You might be able to, what Google might say for like in market, which in market audience is like someone shopping for something, in the market to buy a car, in market audience to rent a sports car, in market audience to get married and buy a wedding dress. Google has some great data here. So I'm not counting out custom segments. You can start with the first party and expand and try new custom segments. So I wouldn't recommend starting all at once with this. The more specific you get, the faster the account learns. If you have too many custom segments added in and it's trying more things, this just means you have to increase your budget, right? So if you're like, hey, I want to spend $100,000 and learn as fast as possible, then yeah, sure, you could add all these custom segments and it will test all these things and you can trim down and you wasted $50,000. So typically we start smaller and then we try and test and add new custom segments and new imagery around that. Now, when you start, gives you a budget. So we usually just take the recommended Google budget to start. It recommends it for a reason, so we give it that. Trust me, we do not take Google recommendations at face value. If you just went and accepted every Google recommendation in your account, you'd be in trouble. But for this case, because it is a very Google-driven performance campaign, we want to kind of put our best foot forward. So and it's kind of arbitrary. We'll set that budget to the recommended budget. But keep in mind, your first week is going to be pretty crazy. Like, don't look day 4. Don't do it to yourself. Know that you've put the budget, in this case, $250 a day, and a week in, or even say 10 days in, you've spent $2,500. I am not advocating wasting $2,500. That is not what we're doing here. But if you panic in day 3 or 4, you might not get, and I showed you that case study earlier. And like I said before, that 18X was month 1, not week 1. Week 1, our ROAS was like 0. I'm pretty sure it was really low. And it was like, okay, come on. We have some like engagement signals, but no ROAS. Week 1 is going to be turbulent. It's going to send you on a trip. Try to be patient and let the machine learning learn. So I'm going to go into some summary as some next steps. There's definitely, make sure you're fixing any major issues like, image, video, logo compatibility. These are just standard things that you need to be doing in the campaign creator. It summarizes this all for you so you can fix them. Don't be swayed by their conversion recommendations of target actions and all that good stuff. Know that you want to learn before you start telling them what to do. So let it learn first. Follow our decision tree. Remember that decision tree. And then in terms of verifying, triple check, quadruple check, make sure you verify your goals. I think every single account I've audited and we've looked at as a company has had conversion action errors, and they make it complicated, like not only in the campaigns, but also at an account level, at a portfolio wide level. It takes you a bit of time to learn the back end. It's not the Google Ads platform I remember from 10 years ago. Even I had to get in there and learn firsthand how to do it myself, because I couldn't just rely on looking at a screen and figuring it out. I had to really learn how they separated their conversion actions. What are defaults? What's being leveraged? What's applying to certain campaigns? Live campaigns versus pause campaigns. They make it quite confusing, so you need to make sure, triple check that you have it right. Verify your assets fall within their Google Ads Performance Max best practices. This is kind of a no-brainer. Confirm your budget, make sure you're okay with that money being spent, and then launch. Now, reminder, you couldn't change this before, and so often people will forget to do this, but go back in, once it's launched, change the advanced location settings to target users who are in or regularly in your target locations. You do not want people who are interested in your target region unless you have a very specific reason to do so. There are, maybe travel might be a good example. People who are traveling into you're a hotel company. But for the most part, like 90% of brands probably should just turn this off. So start that way. Maybe you can expand later and test, but start with it. Okay, and then just a couple post-launch checklists so that you can make adjustments on the fly. Adding additional exclusions to your front end URL expansion. You might launch with like 10 URLs excluded, but then you find some more pages that you're like, let's remove this. And then once you get data, you start seeing data like 10 days in, 2 weeks in, and you have enough data to see that this landing page ain't it. Let's turn it off. Of course, you're relying on Google to know that with their AI. But at the end of the day, you also can have, be intuitive and make a creative decision to remove a landing page, right? Make adjustments to CPA targets. So this is what we were doing kind of in that midway phase, like dropping down targets, experimenting with that. You need to be testing these things and giving the machine learning the right, different boundaries to play with to make sure that you're feeding the right direction. And then ideally, a conversion action should have over 30 monthly conversions to most effectively utilize these smart bidding strategies. Like if you're only getting 10 conversions a month, you're not really feeding enough data into it. So the chances of it making the right decisions with 5 conversions, 10 conversions, 15 conversions is unlikely. So at least 30 conversions on the month. Really, we kind of want to see at least 100 to be truly confident, but at least 30 to even start, right? And then adding more budget to campaigns limited. So, Google's going to reward you for not letting your campaign budget turn off and having maximum share across your market. I know they probably don't say they do, but they will. And it seems kind of counterintuitive, especially if your ROAS isn't there yet, but you need to test, you need to try. And these are the things that lead us to the results we get to. There's a reason we say campaigns take 3 to 6 months. It's not because you're as an agency, you don't just sit back and wait. It's not as simple as that, but it's trying, it's testing. Every market's different. Every brand is different. Product fit, maturity of the product, the competitors in the space, the seasonality of it, the user experience as they land on your site. Maybe we're improving landing pages and doing things in the back end that are going to help improve this. We're getting learning just as much as we're letting the machine learning run. So you do need to give some time, and giving some more budget will help some of that learnings. Okay, so reminder to take a breath, take the time to put into setup the data. It can be super tedious to map out your Salesforce actions and milestoning to then be imported into Google Ads, and you might require Zapier connections or custom dev. that's the price of making 10x returns, is investing into your data in today's ad ecosystem. And then you can really take off. Okay, thank you. I'll do a little Q&A. There's probably some questions. If not, if you have any questions, drop it in. I should be able to see it. But also, you can contact me, Ben at nav43.com. I can definitely answer any questions you might have on campaigns. But yeah, I think I'm going to kill the actual recording.